it was actually something very special what she was saying. This is when at the end she's again bearing her heart out at the end of the day, and yet then she reveals, I don't know if it's me talking or the four whiskeys, and you're like, who is this woman? And then we went back and, at first that footage was discarded by the person who originally watched it and rated it, saying, I don't know what this is, it's awfully shot, discarded. And then we saw that, and then we went back and cross-referenced her name with everything else she submitted. And we looked at everything, and it was magic. So it was labor. It was labor. And I would say, I do think anyone who was working on this would have been able to identify the major stories which are really beautiful in this right away.
Anurag, what was your first reaction when you saw this? And did you have a realization that there's such great storytellers across the country?
For me, when he sent me the film, the first cut, I thought I'll see it, I'll react to it, I'll give him my feedback. I was sitting in my office when I started playing it. I just couldn't get up. I remember I called him right after. I saw it twice. I can't really dissect it, but it had a kind of a cumulative effect. That film inspired me so much. There's so much of India that we don't see on screen, and India in a Day could not have been done by one individual. It's like a collective film. So everybody's perspective, their point of views, and how it came together so well, and it suddenly shows you a country that fills you with hope. And I was very moved by it. And that's one film I've seen so many times by now, and I can keep watching it. And I can't describe exactly, it's just, I was very overwhelmed by it. And I've not seen anything like this. Listen, I've seen Life in a Day, I've also seen the Japanese, the Japan in a Day. I've seen those two. And I said, this is the best one.
Were you amazed also with the fact that, being a director yourself, you usually used to working on a screenplay? You know what's...
You can't write a film like India.
Correct. So
you can't write it.
Were you amazed that Richie was able to put something together? Because he started with a clean slate, right? Of course he got the footage, but everything was a clean slate.
I thought that, what he managed to do very well was put India out there. Like I tell my boys when they're very confused about things, I said, you know what, just leave everything and go discover the country. I've sent many people on a journey like that. Most of my directors, my sister.
Started like this.
Yeah. No, I send everyone. I send just travel alone. Travel alone, go across the country. Get onto a bus, take a bicycle, just spend 2-3 months, 4 months discovering it. And what that journey does to most of them, and they all come back and much richer, and they actually end up making movies. India in a Day does that to you. Is that journey. There's nothing in India in a Day that was predictable, that you can think of. And the way he did it, starting with early morning, going through the day, ending as the night, celebration, those magic lights, everything. It gives out the picture of India with all its noise intact. Like I remember I made one film, when it was selected for a festival, my sound designer sat down on it and cleaned up the sound so much. And the film played there. The first thing they said, India is not such a quiet country. Why does it sound so clean? And I've never forgiven him for that. But the thing is, this film, with all its silences and its noise and its eclecticness, in the sense it looks, suddenly you feel what a vast country it is, and you have really not seen anything. And your problems and everything else, the perception of things seems so small when you see that film. It does that to you.
Scott, as the production house, Jack, sorry, as the production house that backed this, were you happy with the final outcome? And I say this because eventually, no matter who you gave this to direct to, the perspective would have been different. All of us see it differently. So the way it turned out, were you happy with the perspective that was put out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a brilliant film, and I think Richard did an incredible job. And one of the very interesting paradoxes of all of these films is that, as you've been saying, the director has very limited control over the footage that they have to make the film. And as Richie said, the most obviously best footage does surface itself quite naturally, and yet who directs the film has a huge bearing on what the film is, and I think Ritchie's done a sublime job. There's one other, to me, quite interesting aspect of these films, which is how you invite people to take part in the first instance, and the sort of tone of that invitation is quite important. And we've always felt that the films are quite important, and we like people to take them quite seriously. We were really helped by some amazing exec producers and Anurag, helping to kind of set the tone of what we were trying to do, and that does have a big bearing on what we get. But the other factor is that volume is crucial. The more footage we have, the better the film can be. And Google mounted a really brilliant campaign to spread the word. We did lots of PR and lots of online advertising, and all of those things led to the ingredients that led to Ritchie being able to make such a singular, individual, moving film. But yes, very happy.
Since you mentioned, the entire idea and the advertising of it, Samit, come in here and tell us firstly how did the idea come about, and then eventually what is it that you were trying to achieve, and did you manage to do that?
So we've done Life in a Day, right? Which was the first crowdsourced film of its kind and the first of the series. For us at Google India, I mean, we're an internet company, and what we really take pride in is really knowing the people of India and having a finger on the pulse of the nation. And our main goal, I think, was to get a deeper understanding of the country in a way that no focus group could ever give us. Our country is going through some tremendous change right now. Technological change, economic change, social change, political change. I think we're at this kind of turning point as a nation, and we wanted to create a little time capsule of what life is like and to really get a perspective of how people live, how people think, and understand people even deeper. And the idea was to inspire not just people within Google, but the entire tech ecosystem, the financial ecosystem, to start building for the next wave of Indians coming online by painting that picture. That's what we set out to achieve. I certainly believe that we have done it with a fabulous piece of content. I think the effort has been now to start getting it out to as many people as
How
possible.
do you plan to do that?
Well,
Since you asked.
the film will be starting tonight, available globally for everyone to watch on YouTube. Anyone, anywhere in the world. So that's the first step. We've already, screened it at several film festivals. I'll let Ritchie talk about that. And it's got a huge amount of love and positive reception. So we're hopeful that by taking it live on the world's largest video platform, I think is a big step.
Could you tell us, Ritchie, about these film festivals? What was the response like?
It was very positive.
Before we met Ritchie, we didn't realise that he spends half of his life at film festivals, and wherever you go, he knows people.
That's how I met this guy.
Really, it's incredible. It's absolutely bizarre. So being at festivals with the film and Ritchie was a treat. People love the film, and it's also obviously what's very interesting is how the film plays to an Indian audience, but also how it plays internationally. And my feeling is that it throws a very different light on India than the normal kind of cliches that you tend to get in the West, at least. And a lot of that has to do with the unique way that the film is made and the generosity of the people who are sharing that kind of intimate access to their lives, and not just having a kind of external crew going around and filming stuff, which makes a huge difference. I think audiences internationally have loved the film where they've seen it, and I hope that they really sort of respond to it for a different kind of truth being at work.
Well, but also, I mean, I got very lucky because I just got a call one day from Jack to do this. And that was it. That was my process of getting involved in this project. He had seen some of my work, and we had started dialogue, and then I spoke to Summit, and we started this process. The previous feature films I had made in India, which were very generously supported in Canada. I'm going to do a shout out because I'm Canadian and the Canadian system has been incredible for me. And those films were my attempt. They were products of me doing the travel, of being here, observing things, and trying to wrap my head around this place, almost from an overarching looking down, what is happening here in this country? And after doing 2 films, and there's a thought process in those 2 films that develops from the first to the end of the second. This opportunity came, and for me it became, oh my God, this would be a dream project for the third, because now the job isn't just to try to understand India. The job is to try and be faithful to what the people who choose to participate are trying to say. And these are people who have not necessarily had their voice displayed in such a public platform. So they were very eager to say something. And as a very interesting side note, most of the interesting stories were of people who chose not to turn the camera on themselves. They chose to turn the camera on other people, not for a second showing themselves. Now, if you have a chance to express yourself to the world and you choose to show somebody else, that says something so beautiful. So it became a project of, okay, let's just do justice to what this footage is trying to tell us, which then can be seen by people, like Samit was saying, who have a real influence over the future of this country. And then in terms of going to festivals, I think people understood that right away, that we're not trying to impose a view on what we think India is. India is too complicated to do that to. So people saw that at festivals. People have seen that, I think, and recognized that genuine aspect of it.
Do you get asked this question? This is one thing that you notice, and I mentioned that it covers most demographics of the country, but the affluent class is missing. Do you get asked this question?
Yes.
Yeah. And what's your answer?
It's an observation, of course, that basically. Well,
no, was it a conscious effort, or didn't get enough footage from there?
We got virtually nothing from what we would classify as the economically affluent of this country. Nothing.
I'll just add to that. I think that was the biggest surprise for all of us working on the film. Because most of the stories come from small town India, from rural India, and they're talking about life their lives and development and how it's changing. It was just mind-blowing.
And they have access to all the technology. All technological tools that they could have done. So that was surprising. Okay. Jack, was there also, I noticed that there is this thread there that social causes have been touched upon. Transgender, for example, child labor. Was that also part of the plan? Was it part of the brief? You got down to it?
No. Our ambition was to create a portrait of contemporary India. So there was a slight bias towards technology. We asked people to think about how technology was changing their lives. You get a little bit of that, but all of these things surfaced, and hence they're in the film. That wasn't the reason to do it.
The one other myth that it busts the film, I thought, is that most believe Indians don't have a great sense of humor. There were these humorous moments there. I remember the elevator scene being one of them. There was the wife who orders her husband that order I'm not cooking today. Does that bust that myth? No sense of humor in India. We take offense to everything.
I think we have a great sense of humor. And we also take a lot of offense. That's what India is. It's a contradiction.
If I was to ask you to compare life in a day versus India in a day, is that a fair comparison? And where do you see similarities or things that weren't similar?
India is more a complicated place than the rest of the world.
Put together.
Well, one of the things that's very interesting, but doesn't really, is that the quality of the footage that we received in 2015 compared to 2010 from all over the world, the quality of the footage in India was incredible because of the fact that people have such amazing cameras that we didn't have 5 years ago. I think the focus around identity, because it's anyone taking part is conscious that taking part in a film about living in India, has a bearing on it. So I think it maybe has more, it will always have more to say about identity than life today, which is more, don't know. But I love both films enormously. I'm not going to be drawn on this absurd suggestion that one is better than the other.
we'd love to know a backstory, and Richie, you're the only one who can help us out. Was there any interesting bit of story that you couldn't carry, that you were upset that you couldn't carry, either because of the duration of the film or, censorship issues, certain things that you couldn't show but you would have loved to have shown?
The answer is actually no. There was definitely very interesting, beautiful stories that didn't make it. But the reason they didn't make, we didn't have a time limit. The film wasn't supposed to be 86.5 minutes. It was going to be what it was going to be. And halfway through the editing process, when we started to form the structure of the film, at that point structurally it started to dictate what would work and what wouldn't work, and things we had placed in, then we saw very quickly that this has no place because it's a repeat emotional beat. We got into the nuances of actual editing, which applies to any fiction film you would do. So there are stories that I love. And by the way, the footage is licensed, right? So it's not owned by us, it's owned by the filmmaker, and they can do anything they want. And we told them, like, get it out there if you want to release. Some people shot full-length documentaries on subjects, which, we can include 2 minutes or not include any, or just one shot, which is a visual piece, and they can do what they want with it because it's very special footage. But I will say, one thing that struck me about the footage we received is the level of sophistication in the storytelling that we received, which I could never have anticipated how strong the storytelling was. And it's not that filmmakers who submitted, or amateur shooters who submitted, necessarily know and have internalized, the rules of narrative storytelling or the rules of narrative documentary storytelling. They just told very, very compelling stories. And that, to me, when I watch it now, as a viewer, I look at it and say, if this is the level of, a filmmaker on the street shooting a subject, or shooting themselves, and submitting it, and it's that sophisticated, then as independent filmmakers, I don't know how many people here are actually independent filmmakers, we have to do better. Because somebody who took a phone, pointed it at their own face, and spoke for 5 minutes, did it in a more eloquent and a more affecting way than I probably could have done as a feature film with a couple of $1 million for 4 years and 200 people. If that's the case, I would say we have to do better now. I really look at that and I'm very inspired by that.
Okay, that's a source of inspiration too. Finally, we're running out of time and I have to open it to the house as well. A couple of questions, and I'll ask Anurag and Samit to respond to that. We had Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra here yesterday, and he spoke about how, and since you're a filmmaker, that censorship needs to go. We should just have certification. Do you think, because we're talking about content on YouTube, do you think that's the way forward? Because I don't think you need any sort of censorship there as far as you're not plagiarizing content.
I think it's to have some kind of a censorship in the age of YouTube and internet is pointless. It's not even about what I think is right or wrong. I'm saying, what are you trying to block people from? We have to start treating our audiences as adult people who can think for themselves. And we have to stop handling them and stop doing things on their behalf, because who are we trying to protect? And that's when they can actually stand up and think for themselves. You're preventing them from growing up. You're preventing them from standing up. I don't want to watch something, I don't watch it. I don't see many things. I would refuse to see it. But if I want to watch something, I want to watch it in honesty. I have a problem going to a cinema when somebody says this film has been cut down. I don't want to watch it. I don't even like intervals in our film, because for me interval is also some kind of is a problem. So I wait for movies sometimes to come out on a Blu-ray, or if I'm traveling, I catch most of my films.
So you as a filmmaker, do you see, so internet platforms like, say, YouTube or Google and others as the solution till such time this censorship issue could be tackled?
See, there are two very different audiences. There are the millennials who love watching the film on their laptops and things.
Right.
I grew up watching films
70 years.
on big screen. So I want to have both possibilities. Yes, I watch more films on digital screens, but I want the possibility of having to see films on the larger screen, sitting in the front row like that. And I enjoy the experience. It's an experience. And yes, there's like my daughter would not come to cinemas with me and watch everything on the laptop. So they're two distinct audiences. Like, what are you conditioned to? So for me, when I was growing up, cinema was this major experience. It was almost magical, and I have liked that experience all my life. And I like to watch movies like that. I still don't sit in the back row or balcony. I'm still the tallest person. I still sit in the front and watch a film. So I like that experience. But when I have no choice, I don't have a problem watching on digital. And now they're coming up with a whole lot of stuff. You can watch a film in that virtual thing. I mean, I sit there and watch a film. It's a very immersive experience. So even the internet, the digital, and everybody is trying to turn it into an immersive experience. And cinema for me has to be an immersive experience. When the screen is away from me and this small, it's not so immersive. But if somehow it can surround me, it's an immersive experience, and I would love that.
Okay, but now do you see this as a gaping hole there which you can fill, being from the other side? There are films that go through, I believe, 1,000 cuts and things like that. So this could be an alternate for the filmmakers. This could be one platform where there is no board as such, a censor board.
I really don't think I can speak to censorship. But YouTube is a platform intended for everyone to broadcast themselves and to give everyone a voice. It's a platform where a housewife like Nisha Madhulika can become a sensational, cooking creator with millions of followers, or where a small group of young men in Malad can become India's most well-recognized boy band. So I think YouTube for us is a platform where everyone can broadcast themselves.
But now you've got feature films coming in there.
Yeah, I think we're sensitive to local policies and needs, but I really can't speak to what role we play in censorship.
Fair enough. We're left with, I think, just 10